by GN and Co.
Sure, Genge, welcome back to yet another episode of After School is After School with your girl, Sis G.U. To those that are at home, I hope you guys are well. And to those that are passing by, all right, I hope you like what you see. And you join the Genge, please. I hope you like what you see.
Okay.
And you join the Genge, please. I hope you watch it. And you join the Genge, please. We got a remix today. That is what I like.
Live performance.
Come on. Exclusive. I feel like I don't even have to introduce him, but I will, because obviously it's the right thing to do. This is not a stranger to the platform. It's not a stranger in my life at all. I am here with a very good friend of mine, who is a master's degree holder.
Yeah.
Amongst many other things, filmmaker, screenplay writer, creative, entrepreneur, YouTube channel, YouTuber, evangelist. You wouldn't say that, but I would. All things good, all things right. I'm with my friend Dennis Ngango.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. This has been a long time in the running, and I'm so happy it's happening now when we're both grand.
No. I don't know why I didn't say that, but no, but honestly, that's real, Dennis. That is real. So just a little bit of just to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
We had an episode that we did, I think like 3 years now, and a lot has changed since then.
Yes.
Dennis left, he studied, he came back, and ever since he's been back, the ball has been rolling. He has a film.
And you visited.
Oh, I visited,
you
obviously,
visited in London.
International gal.
You know what I mean?
I couldn't be left behind. I said, oh, he's left?
I'm leaving too.
I'm going there. But yeah, ever since being back has really been doing a lot. And the last conversation we had was about answering the call.
Yes.
And I almost want to say now that you've had some time to answer the call. I'd like to believe. I think the fruits that we're seeing in your life are coming from the fact that you have been obedient and that you're exactly where you need to be. So today I want us to talk a little bit about the cost of answering the call.
Yeah.
The cost of the call, rather, and what that has looked like. So I want to go back a bit, Dennis. You go to the UK.
Yes.
Before going to the UK, was that the plan?
Not 100%. I don't think a lot of these things is ever planned.
Yes.
I knew that, just finished my undergrad in engineering. I knew at that time passionate about storytelling. So I was like, okay, let's do this YouTube thing. Did YouTube for a couple of years. But after some time, I was just like, how can I grow? And how can this thing become something more than just the type of conversations we were having at that time, in terms of things being more in like a docuseries type format. So I wanted to try and see how it can grow. And then the idea of studying abroad came up, but it was I was never really sure about where and how. and
with what money?
What money?
Yes.
And can I leave? Can I take a break? What is it going to look like? But a big part of that was answering the call, was saying, I'm willing to surrender to what that looks like for you, God, and not just lean on my own understanding. So it wasn't really part of a plan. I didn't see how it would come together. But I think the nice thing about being in fellowship with God is that you always have receipts. You always have things to go back to. And I knew that if I was going to move, if it was really something that was coming from God, it would be something that was going to be easy for me. And not easy in the sense that there were no challenges or difficulties, but easy in the sense that I wouldn't have to go out of my way to become someone or to move a certain way, because He had already prepared and planned that for me.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I agree, and I love what you said there, because the journey, babe, wasn't easy in the slightest. But it's the fact that everything around it, everything pertaining to the journey, came to you so easily.
Yeah.
Like you could tell that this is what He wanted for you, and you were ready for it as well.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like? You're now in the UK. You've never lived there before. It was your first time.
Yeah.
You're a South African, you are a student, you are navigating a whole new environment, but moreover, Dennis, you have the opportunity to reintroduce yourself
to the world. Come on.
What was that like for you?
It was overwhelming, because at first it was I'm going to take all my drip, my South African drip. I'm going to make sure people know I'm from Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was just so excited to represent the continent, and even the type of stories you've told on Defining. Everything was very Black excellence, Black love, Black experiences. So I was so excited to take that to the world and show, even in the Western side, that we know what we're about, and we got a lot of flavor. But as I got settled there and I got into London, which is a huge metropolitan of people from around the world, it started to become less about what I could bring to the table and what I thought I was, but it started becoming more about who I could be. And what that space required from me was someone to be competent, who was hardworking, someone who was diligent, and someone who knew who they were. And I was so grateful that I went the time that I went, because as much as my environment was different and it was changing, I didn't have to figure out myself in that space. The space had to figure out itself with me.
Absolutely.
And that's the energy I went in with it. It was challenging to adapt, but at the same time, it just felt like even me getting a scholarship that covered everything in that experience, I knew that God had gone before me for real. And I just knew that I had to lean into that confidence of knowing that He was doing things for me. And if He had set up a way for me to travel in a very soft way, then He's not going to stop now.
Keyword soft.
Soft. If He had made those measurements and those efforts, then there would be no way that it would stop there. God's mercies are new every day.
Every day.
Joy comes
every
in the
morning. Yes.
So I was just like, I want to see that.
Yeah.
That's where my mind was at every day, because I didn't know what to expect from the environment. So I just leaned into who I could trust. And yes, I knew myself, but I could trust God more. And that's what felt easier than trusting myself.
Bar. You just said something. I want to come to that, but I want to ask, so with you being in this environment and leaning more on God and understanding that the environment had to adjust to the fact that you're in it and not that you had to change for it, the version of yourself that came out from there obviously was a version that has always existed within you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the person you've now become due to that experience is a lot closer to who Dennis actually is?
Yeah, for sure, because everything was stripped away.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wanted to go with these passionate stories, which I did execute some when I was there. But all of those things were stripped. I never spoke about any of my work that I did prior. I was just someone who wanted to be in the space and just learn the best that I could do in it. So I think that allowed me to see other versions of Dennis that I never knew existed, and other versions of Dennis that were healed. And I think that's what I loved about the UK a lot, was that...
Pause. What, that were healed? The versions of yourself that weren't healed, did they get the opportunity to become healed in that space?
The thing is, sometimes your space reflects that you're still broken.
Yes.
But in reality, I wasn't.
Okay.
So moving out of that space allowed me to see that maybe I still had the wrong mirrors up.
Yes.
Maybe these mirrors have been up for too long and I need to get new ones.
Yes.
Maybe just being in a different environment showed me that I don't need to label myself in the same ways anymore. I don't need to limit myself anymore. I don't need to think about, does this correlate to who I was a few years ago? Now it's just about, what is the best version of me now wanting? And is that honest? Is that true? Is that reliable? And if I know those are really there, then I can trust that version. And if my doubts or my traumas or insecurities maybe come up, there's a healthy conversation to be able to put it down and say, we're all right. Because I can see that in these other environments, I don't have to rely on those things as much as I maybe would have in other spaces.
For sure.
So sometimes there is space for that brokenness to become healed. And sometimes it's about just refocusing the mirrors and your perception, because maybe you already are healed. You just haven't let your mindset catch up to that.
Oh, a lot of other people at the back though. And I resonate with that, because I do think that there are aspects of my life where I had been healed, but I was holding on to the mentality that I had before, and I was staying in the same places, which made me feel as though I wasn't, and I was still broken. And That's actually really counterproductive because you'll keep thinking you're working at healing this thing when you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
There are other things that you could be doing with your time, other places you could be healing, other things you could be trying. But yeah, I think when you're fixated on the thought that like, yo, in this particular area of my life, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And you keep at it, you're just, yeah, it's a waste.
Yeah, now you also become like an unpacking specialist.
Yeah.
Everyone in your environment was, I'm unpacking.
Yes.
And there's a space and a time for that, definitely. But I also think there's a space and a time for living as well. And I think that's what my experience also taught me is that life is to be lived. It's to be enjoyed.
Yes.
You know? Yeah, when Winnie Kumalo said, I just want to live my life.
Yep.
She was onto something.
You felt that. You said, yep, that's exactly what I want to do.
Run it up because it's making sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many different ebbs and flows and seasons that happen in one's life. And I think it's important for you to give yourself the opportunity to genuinely be able to experience that, to be able to know that, you know what, honestly, I do deserve better. And I'm not crazy for thinking that.
Okay, so now you've had this experience
Yes.
in London and then you're coming back to South Africa. And arguably SA could be a space where you would have thought that you weren't healed, where the old mirrors were hung up, you know, where people knew a certain version of yourself, knew you in a certain light, and you're coming back, not a different person, but a more truer version of who you always knew that you could be.
Yeah.
What's that transition like? Being in the space, interacting with people that are expecting for you to receive them in a certain way, who are expecting to receive you in a certain way. Did you feel as though there was space for you to reintroduce yourself? Was it an easy transition because of the confidence that you had, knowing that like, yo, this is who I've been called to be?
Yeah, I think it's quite tough because from the first point, you live in a bubble. So I'm in the UK alone. I'm engaging here and there. But now when you come back, you're back into the community. You're back into the support structures. So even there, people are happy to have that older version of you that was supportive, that did fit in these type of ways.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you don't function that way anymore.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect that is quite tricky. Then there's the other aspect of also wanting to respect the new boundaries that you have with yourself as well, and how far you're willing to go in these certain spaces. So it has been quite tough, but I think luckily in the UK, I was able to keep in touch with a lot of people who were part of my support. So coming back, my core people, it wasn't quite tough.
Because you were in community and communication with them throughout. Yeah.
It was a bit different, but it was still consistent.
For sure.
But I think it still becomes a bit difficult when there's a bit more bigger gaps between the last time someone may be engaged with you and the version that you are now. There's a bit of those gaps, and it is still tough to figure out, especially if you've been like an empath and someone who is intentional about answering the call and pouring into others. I've just learned that there is a way to do that is just more honest and genuine. And that requires me also taking moments in between to breathe, moments in between to receive what the insight from God truly is, moments in between to pray over stuff, you know, and you can't be doing that everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a bit more better discernment and a bit more trust that I can't get back to everything like I used to, but trusting that the current version of myself that is showing up at that time in that way is more than good enough.
No, definitely. And would you say that, obviously, at first we spoke about answering the call, and now we're talking about the cost of the call. Your life has obviously changed since answering it. And I don't even think you've answered all of it, no shade. But like you're definitely in alignment in where you need to be. There's still more that he's going to do through you.
Before you get into that, how's it on your side? Because obviously we were friends during that time as well.
Yeah.
And you've
receiving
obviously been,
you during that time?
Before and after, because obviously you have a bit more of natural insight for what was before, and what was after, and also transitioning back inside.
Yes. The version of you that exists now is hands down my favorite that I've known from the beginning of time, like from the day I met you till now. And it's because you feel more true to yourself. And that's not to say that you weren't true to yourself before, but it's how willing and open you are to taking up space in the way in which you were always called to do.
Yeah.
Because in the past episode, you are producing, defining, and you had spoken to the fact that you know that you are being called to do more than just be behind the camera.
Yeah.
And Dennis, in the past 2 years, 3 years, I've seen you do that tenfold. I've seen you do things that I don't even want to say that like none of us saw for you, because we always knew that you were talented, but I've seen you shock yourself in seasons.
Yeah.
I've seen God shock you as well with the opportunities that he's brought to you. But beyond that, I've seen you rise up to the occasion each and every time. So yeah, the version of you that exists right now is my fave, hands down. And I think the coolest part about you is that I feel like if someone really knows you at your core, they'll always know you.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been any like crazy shifts or changes. Like you've become more of yourself, but the Dennis that we all know and love and the Dennis we're in community with has stayed the same. Like you see us the same, you support us the same. You're the friend that you were when you left, and if not better now that you're back, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's been really cool and that's been inspiring for me. I love the fact that you left SA. We'd spoken multiple times in that, like, when you live in a place, it can be very limiting.
Yeah.
Because you're scared to spread your wings. People expect for you to show up in a certain way. And I think God was so faithful when he allowed for you to leave, because it's what you needed at that time in your life. And to be able to see you do that, but not only do it, but to do it and thrive and to come back the person you are now is an answered prayer for me, even though I haven't lived it, but just seeing it in your life, I'm like, amen, hallelujah. Like,
it can happen.
It can happen. He can do it for absolutely anyone. And the one thing I've always taken away from you, but especially now, or rather in that time where you were in the UK, is how expectant of God you are. And I think sometimes we can play with our faith. We can play safe, you know. You'll pray and be like, oh, maybe he'll do this, maybe he'll not, whatever the case may be. But Dennis, there are seasons and times in your life where I can hear the conviction in your voice, the words you use, where you know that you are due for a blessing. You know that you're due to be elevated.
It's coming up now.
Like, no, literally, Dennis will be like, well, talking is like, Gugu, I'm due for an upgrade, baby. I don't know about you, but I know. And but it's even in the smallest of things. It's like you got to the UK, and like you said, he got you that far, so you were expectant of him to carry you out throughout that journey, and you knew that he would, you know. And sometimes, like, my self-doubt and my lack of knowing him more than anything, because I honestly feel like we doubt God because we don't know him well enough. Because if we really knew who he was, you wouldn't doubt absolutely anything. So my lack of knowing him in certain times and seasons does maybe play a bit. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is going to happen for me, but like, you're sure that things are going to happen for you. You may not know how, you may not know when, but you know that they're going to happen. So yeah, it's been a privilege. It's honestly been the biggest privilege also. It's not easy to also stay in friendship with someone when they leave and they do come back. So even that can always be a test of a relationship. But again, I think that you have been surrounded by people that have always meant to be in your life, and your community has stood by you because you stand by us, and it doesn't matter how far away you are from your people. You are someone who is incredibly intentional, especially with your friendships and the people you've chosen. So yeah, I didn't feel the gap per se. That was my experience of you.
Thank you. It was nice that you visited, as I said. It was nice to have that shared experience as well, of knowing what that world looks like and how it has also its own fair share of challenges. Nothing is necessarily a silver, platter, but it was good to see you in that environment too.
Yeah, thanks. I enjoyed it. It was different.
Yeah.
They're different that side. But again, I think also it's seeing how different it was, but seeing you still be you in the space. Because if we're going to speak honestly, like the people in the UK can be very cold.
Yeah.
They're very much mind your business. We're not really here to talk. Like, talk to me only if you have to. Whereas obviously in SA, we're very like, hey, hi, how are you?
Ubuntu baby.
Yeah, Ubuntu baby. Like, that's the vibe. So to also see you live in that space, Dennis, and not see it change you, for you to still have the same curiosity you do around around people and the stories that they have, is a beautiful thing. That's how I know it's your gift, and it's just who you are, and it can't be taken away from you, or it won't change in different environments. It's just who you've been called to be.
I appreciate that.
You made me now lose my train of thought regarding my question to you.
We're getting back into the core
of it. Yes. Okay, cool. So you've answered the call. You're living in it. What has the cost of your calling been?
I think it's been, first, it's living in in uncertainty
Yes.
a lot of the time.
Yes.
Living in uncertainty and knowing that there's the call and the insight from the call also develops and changes. It becomes clearer. You know, you build a confidence in knowing when something is coming from God. There's a peace that you feel. So there's a lot of fruit from the Spirit that you feel, okay, I know where this is coming from. But at the same time, it just is also pushing you to be not only what the call requires in terms of you doing that specific thing, but it also requires you as a person to change. It requires you to do work so that you are in the position to fulfill the call and fulfill it in the way that God intended. You know, for me right now, being a good steward is imperative. So even in the call, there's something about being a good steward, and that includes living in the uncertainty, doing the inner work, being able to let go of things that, again, is not aligning with the peace and the attributes that you should be feeling inside, because the call is always for God and it's always for His purpose, but it's also for what He wants to do with your life as well.
Absolutely.
So there's a transformation happening in you too.
Absolutely.
Even though I'm thinking I'm doing something to make empowering stories for the rest of the world, but those stories are still going to have to come from a real place.
Absolutely.
And that's the work that you do in the call, where you get stripped from a lot of things, and those things that you strip become a part of that call, so that you're able to be a testimony in that moment too, because part of living it out is being able to share that testimony afterwards, and being able to say that there's another testimony after this that I'm going to have to work through. But for now, this is what God did. So a lot of letting go, a lot of constantly having to reflect, having to be in tune, having to trust God, and having to be reliant on knowing that this is coming from a place that is spiritual and is from God, and not being able to waver. Because for me, it's not a matter of something that's just changing my trajectory or something that's enticing. It's something I feel in my spirit. It's something that I feel in my bones, and something that I know through God I'm definitely called to do.
Let's talk about your relationship with letting go.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine that over the past few years, you've had to let go of a lot, you know, the idea of what your life would be, letting go of life as you knew it in the UK, letting go of maybe even certain friendships with the move, coming back, all of that.
Sure.
Do you find it easier now to let go because of the fact that you've maybe had to do it as much as what you have, and because you also are aware of the fact that God would not ask for you to let go of something if there wasn't a reason and if He didn't have better?
I think it's a lot more easier now, because I can see how even like a slight shift to a different country is able to show me that through letting go of one thing, there will be better things to fill up that space.
Yeah.
So now that I've tangibly seen the things that can come from letting go, it's a lot more easier. Also, there's a part of just even my mentality that's just like, not letting go is holding me back.
Yes.
So there's just a part of it that's like, if I want to look out for the better version of Dennis, or the higher version of Dennis that is definitely going to exist somewhere down the line, the best thing I can do for him right now
is to let go.
Is to let this go.
Yeah. And also there's a weight that is associated, or that's like there with not letting go.
Yeah.
You feel it. But the more that's on the line, the more you understand that you need to let this thing go in order to be able to move forward and to get there maybe as quickly and as swiftly as what God wants for you to get there. And I think when you are like a people pleaser, you carry that weight so effortlessly.
Yeah.
Because you feel like it's your burden to carry. You feel like I have to carry this thing in order to maintain whatever that thing is, and then also be able to walk towards whatever God has for you, not knowing that it's slowing you down significantly.
Yeah, but I also think for me, it's about also, I have to always be conscious about what I'm holding on to. And if I'm holding on to the core, I'm holding on to it wholeheartedly. But if I'm not willing to let go of something, I know for myself, I've then had to say, okay, Cole, we'll come back. I'm going to go hold this thing that I don't want to let go of, because it doesn't exist in the same world.
Damn.
It doesn't exist. So I say, this call is really, really cool and exciting.
But it can wait.
But it can wait, because I'm not willing to let go. And I think in certain times, there's moments where I see how the flesh is taking over and how it's more of a fleshly desire to hold on to this thing because I know it's not really serving me in bigger ways. But at the same time, I'm not willing to let go of it for whatever reason. So I've also been able to see, okay, this is what I'm like when I want to hold on now to something that's not the call. When I want to hold on to other things, I've also been able to see that as the new version of Dennis and see what that looks like and then seeing the consequences because now this may be the one big thing that's taking away my peace. So then I'm able to see, okay, holding on really isn't maybe a good look for me.
It's not a good look at all. As you're speaking, I thought to the fact that like sometimes we can be so arrogant with God because we think that he can wait, right? So it's the fact that you've been called to do this, called to do his work. You're willing to put that on the side in order to, I don't know, for your own reasons, for the people around you, whatever it may be, because you're like, nah, it's fine. Like he gets it. When obviously God is the main priority in our lives. And again, what you said is so interesting in that sometimes things can be worlds apart. Something can't exist while you're walking within your purpose. And it's a harsh reality and a terrible truth at times, but it's just the fact of the matter that like the calling over your life, the purpose in your life comes with a whole new world.
Yeah.
It comes with a new community. It comes with a new routine. It comes with a new mindset. It comes with a new person. Honestly, like constantly we're asking for God to renew our minds. We're reading his word daily. We're becoming different. The wisdom is settling in. There's so many things that are happening that the old versions of you and the things that you used to hold on to don't have space in this world anymore. And I've found my experience with it is that like you said, it's the choice.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of when I'm not operating within my calling because it feels so much harder and I can literally feel that I'm delaying myself.
Yeah.
I can feel it. And sometimes I'm also aware that I've taken to this thing because I want to delay.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel ready for this new world because it feels so foreign. And yeah, it's just unlike anything else I've ever experienced. So I sometimes have said to myself that it feels like I'm holding both with one hand. I'm not committing to the other. It's the choice of being able to dabble between the two. But as of 2025, baby, I'm holding the one.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm holding the one just because there's a lot more peace. There's a lot more fruitfulness. There is a lot more alignment.
Yeah.
Like you said, like the fruits of the spirit really start to come through. You can feel it in your bones. You know that this is a space you should be operating in. And also it's the fact that he's faithful that in whatever it is you had to let go of, he'll replenish tenfold. Yeah, and it will be a better fit for you.
Yeah, better fit, tailored. Specifically
tailored
for you, your name, and no one can take that away from you in any type of way. Like it's so tailored to you to the point where you know it's a miracle, and God is in the business of miracles.
He is,
you know. So I agree with you in the sense of there are two different worlds, and both worlds bring different things.
Yes,
and even when you're holding up to the stuff that you have to let go, it's also you're also giving into other worlds and other things that you have no business being part of.
Yes.
Things that take you back to other parts of you that no longer exist.
Absolutely.
But sometimes not letting go keeps you in that same environment, keeps you in that previous version of yourself that can't operate in your calling. And if you're honest with yourself, you know that too. And I get being scared. I'm someone who, I think even in the past one, I was scared then. You know, I've always been someone who, yes, I did my best to answer the call, but I would always allow myself to be scared first. I'd always be the one to say to everyone clearly, guys, I do not feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
I don't feel like I'm at my best. I don't even feel like I'm worthy. You know, I don't even know how this dream is going to become a reality. I remember when I came back, and then I came back from the UK in October, and then the NFVF, the National Film and Video Foundation, was taking master students to Nigeria. Now I'm just like, God.
Oh, talk about it.
You did your big one.
And you're about to do it again.
Am I gonna watch? Yes, I am.
Yes.
Front seat?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Am I there? Duh.
Say less.
Yes.
But there's still that thing of like, do I think I can really ask for more? Do I really think I can
Dennis,
practice my faith again? Am I worthy of moving
Dennis,
with this to this level?
Yes.
And before going to the UK, I wanted to go visit Nigeria. I was doing it with a friend. Their visa
Oh my
didn't-
goodness, yes, I remember.
Their visa didn't go through, but mine did.
Yeah.
So that happened a while back, but I never thought of it. And I thought Nigeria would be cool. They're so
Mm.
ahead in terms of some parts of filmmaking. So I was like, yo, Nollywood, I want to go learn from them. I just learned from the UK.
Yes.
2 different entertainment industries. Let's rock.
Yes.
But I'm like, yo, God,
I just came back off of this miracle in the heart. Who am I to?
to say again. Me.
Again, literally. Me again. Asking you
Me.
again.
But even just seeing how applying for that opportunity and then seeing how my past visa experience
Mhm.
made this experience literally just
10 times easier.
10 times easier,
Uh-huh.
tailor-made.
Yeah. Well.
It was like,
Yes.
how can I not experience
Mm.
the fruit of answering the call? How can I just think that the call is just about the labor, the sacrifice? How can I not be conscious about the fact that the call is also about
Ooh.
receiving?
Yes.
It's about being present for the fruit and the overflow,
the overflow.
that God wants to also bring into my life to say, yeah, we are on a new level.
Yes.
Who am I to stop myself from that? And
Yeah.
we don't go into the call for those things,
Absolutely.
but those things do
Are
happen.
a part of it.
And even then, there's an obedience that is required
Required.
for not only sustaining the surrendering in the call,
Mm.
but sustaining in the fruitfulness of the call, in the surviving of the call, being humble in the call, not being arrogant in the call,
Speak
sharing
on
the
it.
testimonies in the call. There's that
There are
part of it
things.
too that is also elevating, because now the whole system's elevated. Not only that
Absolutely.
you were the strongest soldier,
Yeah.
but you were the strongest soldier and his biggest champion at the same time.
Yes.
These things can coexist.
Yes.
So I think there's a big part of the sacrifice of the call, which I think is really imperative. Getting your mind and your heart in position, understanding the habits that you need to put into place. But a big part of the call is accepting all parts of God. Not only the one who's disciplining you, but the one that's loving you. Just like we see with our parents, they discipline us, but they
They do
love
it out
us.
of love. Yes.
You know? And that Easter egg, that chocolate still comes at the end of the night too, you know?
Yeah.
And you can experience that type of fellowship with God
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
There's a fellowship in the call that is so unmatched
It's so
that
Dennis.
you don't want to rob yourself of being able to go there.
You don't want to rob yourself of being able to go there. I think surrendering yourself entirely to God is one of the hardest but most
Yeah.
beautiful things you could ever do. Because when you give all of yourself to Him and He's able to shepherd you in all of the different
Yeah.
ways, Dennis, you realize that like what I was living over there was a joke.
Yeah.
I will never go back to that. I'd rather
Yeah.
be here. And I think when I was holding up to the both worlds, when I let go of the one in its entirety, that's the realization I came to, that even in sometimes the suffering, even in the being reprimanded, even in the growing, even in the pain, I would much rather be here because I know that it's doing more for me than what the other world
Yeah.
was doing. And I know that I'm being disciplined out of love. And I said this in the other episode, but a friend actually said it yesterday. She said to me, you can fake a lifestyle, you can fake personality, but you can't fake a strong character.
Yeah.
And I think God is in the business of building
Strong
character.
characters. Yes.
He
Yeah.
is in the business of doing that because he needs to make sure that you, wherever you've been planted, can withstand whatever comes your way,
Yeah.
and that you know how to handle things. And that's also where being humble comes into it. I think sometimes people are elevated and they get taken by the fact that they're elevated, not realizing that you've been brought to this place because He allowed you to be there.
Yeah.
And you're going to need that much more of Him to sustain it, if not go higher.
For sure.
I even like what you said earlier on. You said like you brushed over it very quickly, but your calling changes and it becomes clearer the more that you're in it. And I almost want to say that if you answer the call and you kind of stay at that level where you're holding both worlds in one hand, you'll never truly see how good it can get.
Yeah.
You'll never see what else He has for you. You unfortunately have to let go of it to really cement yourself in this, to see Him open doors. Even now, Dennis, you have an idea of where you're going. You have an idea of what He's going to do with you, but you don't
know fully.
you don't know fully. And you'll never know. That's the beauty about being in relationship with God. I used to hate the fact that I didn't know so much, but I love the fact that I don't know now.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, again, His mercies are new each and every morning. Joy comes in the morning.
Yeah.
I can read the same verse again on a different day and catch a different revelation from
yeah.
it. Like it's the newness, and it's only something that He can do in our lives. And I personally, for one, need that.
Yeah.
For sure. I think when I have been in control of my life, I've hit walls
Yeah, what
time
a
and
tough
time and
time.
time again. What a boring time.
What a tough time.
When you're relying on your own strength
Yeah.
day in and day out.
Man,
Whack.
starvation's constellation.
All the time. You're dying for hunger. You're
Yeah.
thirsty. And even so, I think being a child of God is also kind of taking yourself out of that worldly mentality of, I get what I deserve. We don't get what we deserve. We get what he wants for us. So when you
Yeah.
came back from the UK and all of a sudden there's an opportunity to go to Nigeria, if you were measuring your own deeds, Dennis,
Yeah.
and measuring how good of a person you think you are and what you deserve, there could have been a part of you that was like, no, I've had my moment. Like, that's okay. But
Thank you so much, God. But
like, it's okay, sir. I like pass me by. But no, it's the fact that he has more for you. He has more than what you think.
yeah.
More than what you know. Like, you don't even know how good it can get. So I love the fact that you're like, I'm going to pray again. I'm going to pray for more. And
Let me practice again.
let me practice again. And that's exactly the word. You're practicing your faith.
Yeah, I think the works part of faith is so important. And I think that's something I'm trying to be honest towards as well. It's always giving my faith works to work with. The things that just show God that he is God in my life. And also that, yeah, there are things that he can leverage to whichever space and time in which he requires. I am so grateful for the experience God has opened in my life and how things have changed and how it's transformed not only me, but my family and my legacy, because now we have a master's from the UK with distinction in our lineage, you know? So I'm grateful that my family's trajectory will forever be changed.
Amen.
That's not something I can take for granted. So
yeah, and that's not something that could ever be taken away from you either.
exactly. It's a fact.
Yes.
It's a fact. So I think I just think that God has given me enough opportunity to believe that I can trust him and that he does know better and that, yeah, why don't I give myself the privilege of being surprised when he gives me something new, when he gives me a new challenge, when he gives me something that's a bit more out of it. Instead of it being now about fear being the first one to answer the call,
Yes.
it's more like faith really has the phone in its hand ready to answer.
Absolutely.
And it's like, okay, what can we really do from here? And trusting what God has done, because yeah, I'm so grateful to have had this experience and to have experienced it with God.
Yeah.
And you always feel like in the back of your mind, you never know if something like this could ever happen again.
Yes.
But even then, I will be thankful for whatever God has done till now.
Yeah.
Regardless of what changes tomorrow. He did a good work in me. And that's what I always feel grateful for, is that God did that. And I'm so grateful to be able to share that journey with so many people, that, yeah, you can rely on God, and that in answering the call in whichever way it can be, it will lead you to a better relationship with God and a better relationship with self that you honestly deserve to see.
Oh, I'm a bit taken aback, but yes, and yes to everything you've said. But as I'm listening to you, it almost feels as though you're on the other end of it, right? Because at first we were talking about like answering the call, the doubt that comes with that, the
Yeah.
fear that comes with that. And obviously you've now answered, you've seen the fruits of it, you're in a different place, and you are able to recall everything he's done for you in the answering of it, to remind you that like he is a faithful God. If he said he's
Yeah.
going to do something, he's going to do it. But I sympathize for those that are maybe in the process of accepting the call, because when you are accepting it, you may
Yeah.
not necessarily have the past testimonies to lean on. It's something very new. And I think that's why your story means so much to me, because there's still a lot of things that I'm hoping for
Yeah.
and praying for that I haven't necessarily seen. But it's the fact that he has done it for you in the way in which he has, to know that there will be a time when he brings it to pass
Yeah.
for me as well. But I think I would be lying to you, Dennis, if I said that I'm like, one day the phone's in the hand of faith. And the other day it may be in the hand of doubt and fear.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest with myself about that. But it is constantly reminding myself that like he has a plan for me. And I don't know, I feel like I'm speaking, not specifically.
I think you're saying you definitely do sympathize with answering the call and parts of it that are also difficult.
Yes.
And I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is definitely what a privilege to know that another version of you exists.
Yes.
What a privilege to know that a higher version of you is accessible.
Yes.
And deep down, if you're willing to have that chat, there is a doubt and a fear and an insecurity that exists between this version and that version.
Yeah.
But don't take for granted the fact that your reality, outside of this insight that's coming from God, the fact that your mind is fully aware that you can exist at a higher level and a higher power. And if your mind's able to process that, it's able to slowly but surely give you the other tools and show you those other things if you give it the chance. If you show it that you're willing to take the risks, which that too is very scary. Absolutely, very scary. And even now, coming back on the other side of things where I've been here since January, still trying to figure out where I stand. It was incredible to take my parents with me to my graduation. That was fun. But since then, I haven't been able to get work. I've been applying for jobs every other day. I apply for jobs. It doesn't work out for me. And I also don't want to fall into the trap of being a highly graduated.
Yes.
Overqualified.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I do have this experience in production, but it's digital. Some people respect digital, some people don't. Then I'm in another interview room and they say to me, bro, you are so talented, so gifted. Why are you going to slow yourself down to be here with us? And I'm just like,
I need a job.
I need a job. I need to grow. I need to become. So I relate to it being hard and it being difficult. And even now, even though I've answered that portion of the call, there's other portions of the call I have to answer now that are difficult, that are fearful, that I'm also scared towards. But I am leaning towards the fact that there's another version that definitely exists and is attainable in some reality that is also part of me. And I deserve it for me to be able to see that through.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm practicing. What I'm saying now is not even something that's just for someone else. It's something I got to say for me too, where I don't know when I'm going to get the next message from the bank because I haven't heard from the bank in a while, you know? But at the same time, I have faith that the goodness that was with me prior has to count for something.
Absolutely.
And I have to believe that, yes, it's risky, it's tough, it's difficult, it's not complete, but there is beauty in this mess.
Yes.
And there's sins, there's brokenness, there's betrayal that I've also done when I wasn't answering the call. And when even answering the call wasn't even a priority, it was just about showing up every day. Yeah. When I did those things, and God did an incredible work with my sins, an incredible work with my brokenness, an incredible work with my indecisiveness, with my brokenness. Yeah. Who am I to let me not having a job right now
get in the way of
or me having uncertainty, knowing very well that there's a higher version of Gugu that I'm seeing in my eyes, a higher version of Dennis that I'm seeing right there that seems attainable despite all of this.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't ignore it.
Yeah. No, for sure. And when you know, you know.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that you can see him and you can sense him and you know how he moves and you know the rooms that he's operating in and you know the opportunities that are attached to him. Like it's just a simple saying of the fact that God wouldn't bring you this far just to leave you.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have done what he's done in your life to not take you any further. And also everything you've been through in your life is not in vain. Every lesson, every heartbreak, every season of, delay, every sacrifice, it's not in vain. Like he uses every part of you, every part of your story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to bring about his glory. Yeah. And I think that's something I obviously do look forward to. And it is, I'm just having to be diligent right now, diligent in my word, diligent in seeking him, diligent in reminding myself. Like a daily prayer for me right now is, Lord, get into my mind before I get into my mind.
Yeah.
I don't want to overthink. I don't want to entertain thoughts that have nothing to do with you, that don't align with what it is that you've said over me and my life. So yeah, I think sometimes even in the calling, there are seasons where your obedience and your diligence is what the exam is in that season. That's all you have to do. You have to be obedient. You have to be obedient in waiting. You have to be obedient in seeking. You have to be obedient in having faith, even when your situation doesn't make sense, because you know that you will be elevated at the end of the day. Like it doesn't make sense for him to have done what he did to just be like, oh, okay, thank you so much. This is where your story ends.
But it's also just not about the fruit of it. There's just also trusting that the faith and its definition is also changing over time.
Absolutely.
And how I perceive the faith is also completely different.
Absolutely.
The season I'm in right now is very much, it has to be a faith that works.
Yes.
It has to be a faith that understands I should not be afraid or discouraged. A faith that understands that I should not be understanding on my own intelligence.
Yeah.
A faith that understands that these Bible verses are speaking to me. So there is something about being able to understand that your faith is also growing. Your understanding it is also growing. And what is required of that faith is also different.
Yeah.
And being honest about that also allows your perspective to change and to see that it might not end in the fruitfulness that I'm thinking of. It might not end in this completely different, exciting dynamic where I leave the country.
Yeah.
But it will end in other things that are also impactful and nourishing and even more perfect for your life.
Oh my goodness, it'll end in glory. I
had been applying to leave 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, this is not something that just happened in the previous year. Even with my scholarship, you have to apply 2 years before. So I'd been applying. I've received so many no's before the yeses came. And even then, there were things that I needed to do in my family.
Yeah.
Things that I needed to do at home first before leaving.
Absolutely.
That when I left, my relationships with my family became the strongest and the best because that pre-work that we needed to do
had been done.
So I think there is something about having to see it through and hoping for the best, but it's not just the products of the best that what matter.
For sure.
It's the product of who you also become.
Yes.
The product of who God becomes in your life as well. That all these things for me is just it's just too important to be missed.
Yeah.
And in faith having to change, have had to go back to the basics, and I've had to ask myself questions like, if today was just based off of yesterday's prayers,
yes,
what would that look like?
Yes.
What is a good steward in the season?
Yes.
So I've had to go to those. I'm not saying what is my vision plan? Who do I want to become? How does God align with my goals? How are we getting to these bigger things? But how do I go back to, again, rebuilding the faith as well for what is required?
No, absolutely. And the greatest work that God can do in our lives is within us. And I think sometimes we forget that, like, outside of what he can do for you, it's the work he does within you. It is your heart and your character, and there's nothing that beats that. And even if things don't happen for you in the way in which you want them to, it's the fact that you could stand tall knowing that he's done a great work within you and that his presence is real in your life. And yeah, you're right. I think it's too important to miss out on.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get the thing you're praying for, even if the opportunity doesn't come, you would much rather still be in the process of those things. Yeah. And also that way, if it does find you, whenever that thing does find you, you're ready for it. You know how to handle it. You know how to steward it as well, because we can mishandle blessings in a blink of an eye, like incredibly quickly, especially in an environment such as the UK that is maybe a lot more fast paced, that maybe isn't as quick to acknowledge God, you know, like, you have to be built for it. And I think the building is the toughest part, but it's worth it, even if you don't get to the other side. Being where you are as a new version, as a new creation is actually the real goal at the end of the day, for sure.
And knowing God at a new type of intimacy.
Oh, for sure. That's the best part. Because you always think like, oh, we're here now. Like, this is a really good place to be. And this is where, like, I mean, I don't think this anymore because I've come to realize that you never really hit the pinnacle. But at some points in my life, I was like, oh, this is as good as it's going to get. Like, this is amazing. And he'll just take you higher and higher and higher, or deeper in a relationship with him. And there's nothing better than knowing him intimately and for yourself at that. Yeah.
I think with the call, there's just something about getting into an elevator. And knowing that's part of it is taking the stairs to find the elevator.
Yes.
And part of taking the elevator then is having to leave things on the stairs and not take it with you.
Absolutely.
You know, so there's always things that you leave behind. But in going in this elevator, there's so much that you gain.
Absolutely.
And being able to gain a new version of you, being able to see your life that you think, you know, I don't understand maybe why this person is my sibling or why I'm passionate about this thing. Being able to just see how these things can actually come together a lot more clearer is really so reassuring, especially as we continue to adult and become who we are. There's just something about being able to allow those versions of you to exist and to let the things that you need to let go of so higher things can take its place.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that like we need to commit to ourselves and we need to commit to God. And that's the greatest commitment you'll ever have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to see it through for yourself, because not seeing those versions of yourself will do more harm to you than anyone else, you know? So yeah, damn, I'm incredibly proud of you, incredibly proud of all that you've done and all that you're still going to do.
Yes.
You were teasing me earlier when I said I'm in a good place, but you're in a good place too. Okay. But yeah.
You can tell?
Yeah. No, I can tell, you know, like you may be waiting on certain things and there may be uncertainty, but you know who you're rooted in.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best place to be.
I know where home is.
Absolutely. You know how to get there, quick, fast, and hurry. Even if you stray, even if you have a bad day, you know how to get right back on track. And I think that's a beautiful blessing and a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It definitely is.
Definitely. But Dennis, guys, I'm going to leave it here for today.
Yes, sir.
Please let them know where they can get a hold of you, because, child.
So many places now.
So many places.
So many countries.
Places. Like, are you here? Are you there? Where are you?
So, where you can definitely catch me, everybody back home. Those who are listening, you know, on Spotify.
Yes.
And those who are joining us on the video podcast as well, you know.
Yes, sir.
Uncomfortable Growth, let's rock.
Yes, sir.
You can catch me on Uncomfortable Growth. Obviously, we have our previous episode there.
Absolutely.
You can catch me on Defining, the YouTube channel. And you can also catch me on Deliberate, my other platform, which is also about intentional conversations similar to this. And you can catch me on all your social media at Dennis Ngango. All platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere you'll find me.
Zonke wonke.
Come on.
Guys, thank you so much. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure to check out Dennis's platforms as well. But from us to you, we will be back. There will be more.
There will be more.
For sure. But stay good, stay blessed, and stay loved. Yeah.
Brought to you by GN and Co.